I'm Michelle, and we're going to talk about how I and you can use mindfulness, compassion, and connection to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. Hello, I'm Michelle. Today we're going to be talking about how to find play, connection, and regulation in your parenting. So before I get started, I want to remind you this January 22nd, I'm going to host a free live webinar, 4 steps to build the calm, connected home that you are longing for. You'll get a free parenting reflection journal to help you stay on track and keep your mindset positive. So, on to today's show, how to find play and connection and regulation in your parenting. I help parents who want to parent peacefully, to foster strong relationships with their children, and at times find it really hard. When my kids were small, I found myself so overwhelmed and burnt out. Not only did I struggle with responding peacefully or playfully, I got caught in awful yelling patterns, followed by overwhelming shame because yelling was the last thing that I wanted to do. Now let's talk about how I and you can use the science of mindfulness and self-compassion to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. So, when the kids are off, it's a great way when kids are off, like, they're like just, you could tell they're just off. Play is a great way to reconnect. Or if they are, you know, whiny, or normally you ask them to do something and they do it, and today they're like grumbling and mumbling under their breath. It Play is a great way to move in those moments, because not only does it help your kiddo, but it helps you. And one of my favorite games to play when my kids were younger was spinning them around, rambunctious play, and tossing them on the bed. And I would say, "Oh my, the tornado of doom is coming for you." And I would pick them up and swing and move them around, and then I would throw them on the bed. And then this can lead to other games, like a quick game of King of the Castle, where they're the king of the castle, which is the bed, and they have to try to keep you off. And kids love to be in charge. They love to be the big, strong one. They love to tell you what to do. So they'll probably say, you're the alligator, or you can't do this, or they'll start making up rules. And so it's very empowering for kids. It helps them offload stress. It helps them connect with you. And so there's so many amazing positive benefits. And you might, when your kids are off, it's kind of like when they're whining or saying no or pushing back, just those little moments when your kiddo's off, but you don't necessarily know why. And you probably have a pretty good idea that if I come in with a heavy hand, they're going to push back or have a meltdown, and it won't really help them with whatever's happening. And they will likely still feel disconnected, right? So it gives you some alternatives. If you have a bigger kid, it could be a quick game of chase, chasing them around the kitchen a few times or chasing them around the house. It can be like, if you know what happens to kids who won't do their homework, they get the hairy, scary monster. And then you chase after them. And kids love it when you engage with them this way, because it's playful, because they feel that connection, and they are just like, that's just how they naturally want to move through emotions, is through play. Sometimes crying, yes, for sure, but play is definitely a fun way for them to move through those emotions and reconnect with you if they feel disconnected. Um, so kids, when they're stuck, they're not trying to be difficult. They're not being bad. They're just stuck in tough emotions. They probably don't know why or what they are. So if you ask them what's wrong, they probably can't tell you, because that's why play therapy exists, right? Because it's difficult for kids to talk through. Some kids can, sometimes they can, but they often can play through whatever feelings that they're having inside. They might be feeling a little bit disconnected, and they need our help to help them regain their balance. So these are all the things that moving in with that kind of play can do. And the main reason that this works is because you're bringing connection to the dysregulated brain helps your kiddo shift out of defiant or whiny mode into in a more agreeable mode. And I will say most of the time, this doesn't always happen. Definitely don't want to paint that picture because that's going to set us up for failure. But either way, they're going to feel more connected, which is great for our relationships with our kiddos, right? The second big reason this works is because the laughter and the loud, rambunctious play helps your kiddo complete the stress response cycle. So if they're having a little bit of stress about something that happened at school or maybe preschool or maybe separation's difficult for them, which, they have to separate from us all the time. If, like, when they go to preschool, when they go to bed at night. So there's lots of reasons that kids can feel disconnected or feel they can be off or dysregulated. And we don't have to know why. But the great thing is that laughter and that big rambunctious play can help them complete the stress response cycle and find their regulation. And I've been using play with my own kiddos in these tense moments for years. And it's true that it's not always easy. And especially, when I first started trying to shift into this kind of response to my kids, I could not always do it. First of all, I didn't always want to play. That's still the case. Sometimes I was too angry to play, right? And it did not feel accessible. And of course, it wasn't just going to happen every time. And it does not have to happen every time, like responding playfully, but it is empowering for us as parents to have other ways to respond, right? It's totally reasonable if we need to set a loving limit, which is just, no, I'm sorry, this isn't going to happen, or no, we're not doing that, we're doing this. That's what I mean by a loving limit, like calmly saying what we need to happen. But play is another option, another tool in our tool bag, if you will. And the reason that scolding doesn't always help, because it doesn't help with reconnecting and it doesn't help complete the stress response cycle. And sometimes it stops unwanted behavior when we scold our kids, but other times it kind of like stirs them up more, and then they have a reaction to that, and then we have a reaction to their reaction, and then we just like spin out of control, right? So again, play gives us another tool in our tool bag. And the whole reason that I'm here speaking to you and created Compassionate Heart Mindful Life was because even if you know why play works and it's really important to you and you really want to respond with play and you want to respond calmly and peacefully, sometimes you can't. And there are very good reasons why you might struggle with this. It could be because you're stressed and overwhelmed with things that are currently happening in your life. It could be because you're triggered by whatever's happening with your kiddo in the moment. And those triggers could be old wounds from when you were growing up or past experiences in your life. There could be many, many, many reasons why responding with play or responding calmly or responding peacefully might be very difficult. And it's not because you are a bad parent or because you're doing anything wrong or because you're failing. It's because you're human and you can also get dysregulated and you can also need support. So these are the kind of moments that I find the rain practice really powerful. To me, the rain practice is like therapy in your pocket because it's exactly the same kind of thing that we would do that you would talk through with a therapist, right? So the R is recognize. What is it that I'm feeling right now in this moment? So let's say your kiddo, does something and you think to yourself like, I really want to respond with play, or I really want to respond with a calm, loving limit, but I also want to yell and scream, and I'm thinking about all the reasons that they shouldn't do this and all the reasons that this is unacceptable. And, and you feel like there's this anger inside that's going to like come out pouring on your kiddo, right? So you pause and you step away and you recognize, okay, I am, I have flipped my lid here, as Daniel Siegel would say. I need to regain my balance. And you can go through the RAIN practice. So recognize I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm mad. Maybe I'm mad at them, but I'm also mad that I can't respond calmly. A is allow. This is the hard one. Welcome to the party, anger. Welcome to the party, frustration. Welcome to the party, whatever it is, right? You're trying to acknowledge the emotions and allow them to be there. And the alternatives are we blame ourselves for getting so angry. We blame ourselves for not being able to stay calm. We judge ourselves. We criticize ourselves, or we just shove them away and we say, forget it. And we walk away from our kiddo, or we walk away from the situation, or we just shut down. We try to shut down our emotions, right? So, allow gives us an alternative to that. Welcome to the party, uh, whatever the emotion is. I is interconnected. So, interconnected is consciously reminding ourselves that we're not alone, consciously reminding ourselves, okay, this is a tough parenting moment. Tough parenting moments are normal. There's probably another parent having almost an identical situation somewhere on this earth as I am right now. It is really normal to have tough parenting moments. It's normal to be angry. It's normal to want to yell. And we remind ourselves, one, that the situation is normal, and two, that our response to it is normal, because our brain often says our kid is acting in a way that is different and terrible and worse than all of the other kids. And we start thinking of all the kids that would never do these kind of things, or we start thinking of all the parents who would never yell and never get angry. And so our brain kind of tells us that we're the only one that's going through this, and our kiddo's the only one who acts this way. And those things just aren't true. And when we're calm, we know that. But when our brain's hijacked by big emotions, we forget all those things. So we're consciously reminding ourselves. That's the I, interconnected. And then the N is need or nurture. What do I need right now to help me regain my calm? It might be just reminding ourselves, like a self-compassionate phrase that, like Kristen Neff would say, may I be gentle with myself in this difficult parenting moment. So it could be something like that, where we say something to ourselves. And I'm being really intentional about putting my hand on my heart, because that is sending my body a signal of calming, of compassion, of I'm not alone here. It might be I need a walk, I need to call a friend, I need to text my partner and vent. So the in could be lots of different things, but in a pinch, it's always helpful to remind ourselves, may I be gentle with myself in this difficult parenting moment. And um, that's when you could also pop the pause and regroup into your ears. And if you haven't checked it out, that's the audio recording that I made that you can access through the website compassionateheartmindfullife.com. And I will literally talk you through one of those sticky moments, right? When you want to respond calmly, you think about responding calmly, but there's another part of you that is not calm at all and doesn't want to play and doesn't want to be peaceful and doesn't feel very calm, right? That's what the pause and regroup is for. So that you don't have to like walk yourself through that process alone. So definitely check it out. And this is going to support you in completing the stress response cycle and tending to what's happening inside of you. Because it's normal for a situation like that to trigger our stress response. And the cool thing about this is it doesn't just help us not yell at our kid in that moment or not get caught in a negative cycle with our kid in that moment. It also supports us in inner healing, because There might be a wound from our past experiences that are getting triggered in that moment. It might be difficult feelings that we're struggling with in our current life that are getting triggered in that moment. And tending to those in a compassionate way doesn't just help us respond differently or help our relationship with our kiddo, it also helps with our own inner healing, which I think is super cool. And that's one of the things that's most rewarding about working with parents in the Yelling to Connecting course is seeing them not only shift how their interactions with their kiddos, but also when there's a shift inside of them where they shift from self-criticism to self-compassion. And that has such positive long-term effects in every area of our life, not just in in our parenting. And before I forget, the rain practice I first learned from Tara Brock, who is an awesome practitioner. And the allow I learned from Jeff Warren, a meditation teacher. The welcome to the party, that phrase. So want to make sure I shout out to the awesome people I've learned these things from. So, this week's play idea, the tornado of doom. So, when you feel calm enough and your kiddo's having an off moment, this might be when you say, "What? You won't put your shoes on?" Do you know what happens to kids who won't put their shoes on? They get the tornado of doom. And you come over and you grab them playfully and you pick them up and spin them around and maybe you toss them on the bed and those kind of things. If your kiddo's bigger, like I think I said earlier, it might just be a game of chase. So, and sometimes even just saying it, like even though you don't do it, can be you're like kind of tapping into the playful imagination, and kids always appreciate that kind of response over the, you better get your shoes on right now or else. So your kids are going to appreciate it even if they're like, oh my gosh, like, as they get older, they roll their eyes at you. That's I would take that as a signal of connection. So either way, it's a win-win. And I think I already mentioned this, but don't forget about the free live webinar, 4 Steps to Build the Calm and Connected Home You Long For. It's going to be January 22nd. You can sign up for that on the website. And also, you can jump on the wait list for Yelling to Connecting. We're going to be getting into this stuff together. I love to learn and grow with parents. I think I learn as much from parents as they hopefully learn from me and from each other. That's the benefit of the group is that we parents are supporting each other. The welcome call is going to be the first week of February, and you can jump on the calls that you can. We'd love to see you live, but you can also access the recordings. So you don't have to do this parenting thing alone. We can support each other through this. And just a reminder, this content is intended for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for private psychotherapy services. Compassionate Heart Mindful Life does not provide psychotherapy services in any capacity. I am a therapist, but I'm not your therapist, and this is not therapy and should not be a substitute for mental health treatment. If you need mental health treatment, please find a qualified professional in your area. Thanks again so much for listening. The light in me sees the light in you. Be well.